The challenge of building a compliance culture in a company and how you get there. And I guess I'd like to talk about three main things that I believe are critical if you're going to build the compliance culture. So we talk a lot about tone from the top, and indeed the messaging coming from the CEO is really important. But the top takes on some different definitions as you go around the globe. So China, the top is the country manager, you know, and so you've got to remember that. And you've got to remember that for that group of employees, that's the person that they're looking to as their leader. So I'll give you a couple of examples from Rockwell Automation just over the past week. So last week we had our big automation fair. I was sitting at the table having breakfast with our Brazilian distributors. So Brazil's a tough environment. So I got into a discussion with the distributor and his son about what they do to make sure that people do business the right way in Brazil. And as it turns out, the father, every time he's in front of a group of this distributor's employees, talks about compliance. I said, really, what does he talk about? Well, if he reads something in the newspaper, and there was a recent story about Siemens and bribery and price fixing, that's what he was talking about with his employee groups. That's what you want to have happen. Not only your employees, you want to have the people in the ecosystem. So in our case, our distributors, also talking on a regular basis about compliance, and that message is coming from the relevant leader. Now, from our leader, we have a meeting. We had it on Monday morning. It's with the senior leadership of our company. And at the end of the meeting, our CEO, after he talked about a number of other things that are important to his leadership team, he talked about compliance. And he talked with them about the fact that they need to be the ones who talk about compliance to their employees, because their employees are looking to them for that leadership, or looking to them to say, this is important. Which takes me to item number 2. Item number 2 is to make sure that that messaging around compliance is consistent. It's continuous. So what I do around anti-corruption at the beginning of every year is I map out a communication plan. And I make sure that there's variation in it, and so it's interesting, so that I may write a blog about something that's in the news, or maybe we put out a training video specifically around compliance, or maybe there's some other announcement or story, or maybe there's an award. There's just a continual message around anti-corruption. The employee who starts in mid-year, he isn't going to miss the message. He isn't going to have to wait 6 months till the annual ethics training in order to get the message. That message is consistent and continuous to explain how it is that we want to do business and the fact that we want to do business the right way. You know, we're in the process right now of putting together our performance goals for the coming year. And in those goals, our managers have the number of times we want them to talk about compliance. Now, I am sure that if they didn't have other things that were bombarding them, that they would think about talking about compliance. But because you've got so many things competing, you want to make sure that that goal around compliance is one of the goals where they're doing check. I've done that this year. So that's a reminder for them. The third thing about building a compliance culture that I wanted to talk about is providing the tools. So I just talked about we want our managers talking about compliance. You know, let's make it easy for them to do it. Let's give them talking points on a regular basis. We know our leaders are having quarterly meetings with their teams, their function, their part of the globe, their sales team, whatever it is. Let's give them some talking points. So if they don't have stories on their own that they want to tell, then there's material there that they can use. Or maybe there's videos there that they can use. And one of my very favorite things is to give them scenarios, so that if they're in a smaller group with a team, maybe their leadership team, they can actually lay out a scenario and then have a combined discussion around that scenario and what you would do in that place. So just to review, critical top 3, building a culture of compliance, tone at the top, a message that is continuous and consistent, and third, give your employees tools so that it's easy for them to keep talking about compliance. Thank you.